This edition of Mac Voices is brought to you by PDF Pen for iPhone from Smile, the mobile version of the award-winning Mac PDF editor. Use PDF Pen for iPhone to sign a contract, make corrections, or fill out a form while you're on the go. Now you have big PDF editing power in a convenient travel size. Visit smilesoftware.com for more information, and thanks to Smile for sponsoring this edition of Mac Voices. Hi, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices on the show floor in San Francisco at Macworld iWorld 2013. We're in the podcast booth, and we get to have a live conversation with Mr. Ted Landau.
This is not a booth.
Oh, it's an area.
The podcast table.
Podcast table, okay.
We're at the podcast table, and I'm here talking to Chuck, yes.
Yeah, this is great. Ted and I usually are sitting alone, kind of crying in our rooms with headphones on, talking to each other across the country, so now we get to see each other.
It doesn't sound very good the way you phrased it.
Yeah,
there,
I know. Well, the truth hurts, Ted.
Okay, yes, but we have a Skype connection where we do our podcast normally.
Yes, but it's always better in person. It's always better with a bit of a live audience, so thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. We'll leave a little time to take some questions, but I'm going to start out. Ted, you and I usually do sort of a Macworld wrap-up show, but it's always a week or so after the fact. This time, maybe we can do it at the fact.
Okay.
That okay?
Okay.
All right. So, wrap it up.
Do you have a specific question, or you just want me to start anywhere?
I guess, how about we just start with the feel of the show? That's always sort of a nebulous thing, but it's always so important, I think, to all of us. And for me, it's felt very good. This is, and we should say, folks, for those watching this later, we're recording on Saturday, so this is the day that we're seeing a lot more families come in, a lot of kids, a lot of parents bringing kids through. Much different vibe than earlier in the week, but a very good one, I think. It's
interesting that you mentioned that today's Saturday, because I don't know if you noticed, but they have the dates for next year's Macworld already announced, and next year the expo is going to be on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And so, to me, the message is, and I haven't talked to Paul about what the significance of that is, but my guess is that it represents a further evolution of the show towards a consumer show, towards, like you said, families, towards people who would have an easier time coming on a weekend, as opposed to in years past when it was more of a trade show and people who were working would come on their work time because it was part of their job to be here. And they would never want to come on a Saturday because that was their day off. So I think that represents a shift in the show. And the other thing about it is this format, for the first time in several years, is pretty much the same as last year's format, which I take as a good thing. I don't mean that as a criticism. There was that period of upheaval when Apple pulled out of the Expo, where every year they were trying something different, and the show had a radically different feel, and you weren't quite sure where it was going, if it was going to go anywhere successful, or if it was just going to collapse under its own weight. And now you have a sense they settled on something last year. It seemed to work. They're trying it again this year. It seemed to work this year. And so I think what you're looking at when you look around and go to the events is how the expo is going to be for the foreseeable future, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. And Paul has made no bones about it. They're trying to make this a lot less of a quote-unquote trade show with all the negative connotations that seems to have, and make it more of a festival kind of atmosphere. So a 3-day festival Mac weekend sounds kind of pretty good to me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we'll do this again next year?
No.
Okay.
This is it, Chuck. We're done.
This is the end?
That's it. Okay.
It's conference sessions. I know you delivered one, or Tech Talk, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's got to use the right phrase, Tech Talk.
Yeah.
How did your Tech Talk go, and what did you talk about?
Oh, it went fine. I talked about file sharing and syncing, like how you get files from your Mac to your iPad and iPhone and back again, and things like that, and all the different ways to do it, and all the problems that you can have with the different ways of doing it, and so on. And it was well attended. To be honest, I had a little trouble in that the Tech Talks are now 45 minutes, and in the old conference days, they were an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm never at a loss for words when I'm doing these things, so having to get it down to 45 minutes was a struggle, and I wound up just talking like there was some prize for the most number of words per minute that I could speak. So I'm not sure whether that flew well with the people there, but I got it all in anyway. So.
I had the same experience. I talked about managing the information flood, and when I started putting the presentation together, I figured, I need about 3 weeks, and I've got 45 minutes. So it was a little rapid, but on the other hand, one of the challenges this year has been to get to all the sessions you wanted to. There have been so many great sessions on the Tech Talks track alone, and that doesn't count the stages, that doesn't count the other special events or the show floor. It's just been great, and that's a nice problem to have, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the main stage, I mean, a lot of things are really great. And one thing that did seem to me is that there were some of those big events were less attended this year than last year. I was a little bit surprised. In particular, I went to the rapid fire thing, and that seemed to be less attended than last year. And it's a really great session. The session where they have these 5-minute talks, which I could probably never do because I barely would get my introduction out in 5 minutes. But they have you have to convey something in 5 minutes, and then the next person comes up. And so if you're bored with whatever they're doing, not to worry, because in 5 minutes they'll be doing something else. So it's a lot of fun, and it was really packed last year in a smaller room, admittedly, but it seemed less so this year, and I'm not sure why.
Well, I think you may have hit it last year. I mean, it was standing room only in one of the normal conference rooms, and this time they moved it into one of the stage rooms. So there was a lot there, but I sat through just about everything. I had to leave a couple minutes before it was over, but some terrific sessions, and it is amazing how much, if they focus, how much a presenter can get in 5 minutes.
Yeah, so now I can play Louie Louie.
Yeah.
Thanks to Chris Breen.
Chris Breen taught us how to play Louie Louie on our iPads in 5 minutes.
That's right.
And you could actually do it. Even I could do it if I really wanted to. But I'm not sure there's a point there.
You're sure about that?
Okay. Okay, so let's see, Tech Tracks. Did you get to any of the main stage presentations, Ted?
I saw the opening one with Ashton Kutcher and Josh Gad.
I did not get to that one. How'd that go?
Oh, it was fun. Yeah, I mean, they're not. It's a little bit surprising to me for professional actors that they are not quite as eloquent as I would have imagined them to be in terms of their speaking style. But the topic was fun. You know, they're coming out. It's one of, as most of you probably know, it's one of 2 Steve Jobs movies that are coming out this year. This is the first one, and to be honest, it's the one I'm less looking forward to, though I'm definitely going to go see it. The other one is being scripted by Aaron Sorkin and is the official one based on the Walter Isaacson biography, and sounds more interesting, though Aaron Sorkin can occasionally fall on his face too. But this one covers the life of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak from their days at Reed College to the launch of the iPod in 2002. So it's a hefty stretch of time, and it sounds like it'll be fun.
Yeah, I got to see part of the Fred Armiston talk, and that was very interesting. He was very engaging, very personable, took questions from the audience, and seemed like a very normal person. And I that may have come out wrong, but you know, not a celebrity. He was just here as, this is what I do. He talked about some of the Mac technology he uses, and you know, it would be like me sitting down to Ted and saying, "How do you write an article?" Yeah,
they were both very relaxed. It was like you know, this isn't an official media event like for Hollywood, so I can just be myself.
Yeah. A lot to be said for that. Let's see. Okay, so
the floor. You want to talk about the floor?
Yeah, I was just going to say, before we get to products, anybody have any questions for Ted or me about the show or about it, much of anything? You're all bashful. You're all tired from the parties last night, or both. I don't know which. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll move in a little, or boom, or something. Okay, so products.
So you're only hearing my answers and not the questions.
That's great. Well, that's all that's important, right?
That's right.
You're the man.
I'll start asking the questions too. Then we'll just do another. We don't need you at all, Chuck, as it turns out.
I'll go get lunch.
Okay.
What have you seen, Ted, that's exciting on the show floor?
I don't know that I'd use the word exciting, but I certainly saw a number of things that interest me, and I guess the number one trend, and I'm actually thinking of writing an article about it, is wireless devices. I mean, let me back up a second. First of all, this year is a healthy amount of interesting hardware, which I couldn't always say is true. In some past years, it seemed like the entire hardware range consisted of variations on useless iPad and iPhone cases, each trying to come up with some reason like you should get this one because it also can serve as a can opener as well as an iPad case or something like that. And it rapidly got boring. This year, they actually have hardware that is of interest and goes beyond cases. And so if there's a significant significant difference this year for me. That would be the #1 difference. And of all the hardware products that I saw, the category that interested me the most are these wireless drives. There's at least 4 variations on the theme. Hyper has something I think is called iUSB port, in which you can connect a drive and to this device, which is in turn connected to your router, and it becomes a wireless drive that can interact with iPods and iPads and iPhones, and as well as Macs. Kanex has something called and I forget what it's called now, but they also have a USB wireless drive. Not mySpot. mySpot is, which I'm looking at the name right now. mySpot is another interesting device that they have. With mySpot, it's not a drive; it's just a little unit. And if you're at a hotel, say, where there's an Ethernet wired network, and you have all these wireless devices, you connect mySpot to the Ethernet network, and it sets up a local wireless network, sort of like an Airport Express, except simpler and cheaper. And then you have a local wireless network for all your devices. So your iPhone and your iPad and your MacBook can all connect wirelessly through the one Ethernet connection, and it just does it automatically. It's quite nice. And then over here, Transporter has a device that's sort of like a personal Dropbox server, where it sets up a drive and it will sync files across all your devices, just as if you put it on Dropbox. But instead of having to send it up to a cloud and possibly worrying about the security of having your data be someplace where you don't control, it's all controlled by a unit in your house. And as long as your house has power, you can access it from anywhere, not just from your house. And Seagate has a wireless drive that they tout as being useful for generating content to your iPad and iPhone, so you can access data, stream movies, play music, and so on wirelessly from this drive. So it seems to be this wireless idea, as well as to some extent having things in the cloud more in general. The technology has gotten to the point where cloud storage is cheap enough and wireless storage efficient and reliable enough that we're getting away from all these local wired connections, and I think that's a big trend.
To add to the transporter thing, I've been beta testing a transporter, and that's exactly a great description. It's a personal Dropbox. It lets you have things in the cloud, but you're not storing them on someone else's server, and that's a big security benefit. And we talked to Jeff, the CEO of the company, on another edition of Mac Voices here. You can get a little more detail and a little more information, but I think you'll like it. I have not seen the mySpot, but I've heard about it. That's on my list of things to get to this afternoon, and I can see that being immensely useful, because I've never been able, I really have never been able to get successfully an Airport Express set up in a hotel room. So if I can just plug in something and bang, everything would be on, that would be really nice. Yeah,
unlike an Airport Express, you don't have to configure it when you get there to get it to work. It just plugs in and it's working. So it's very nice. I mean, obviously I just got one like a day or so ago, so I haven't had a lot of time to test out what could go wrong with it, but the little bit of testing that I did, it worked well.
Yeah. There was one thing, I don't know if you've seen, it's kind of interesting back here, and bow blade. It looks like an archery bow, but you mount this, and this sounds crazy, and I am not a gamer, everybody knows that, but this was kind of intriguing. You mount your iPhone in it, and so now you're looking in your iPhone and you're shooting like turkeys on your iPhone with this bow. But the thing about it is, you got a little trigger here after you pull it, but you actually have to pull it and hold it like a real bow and then pull the trigger. And you get yourself a pretty good workout, because they haven't built just a little cheap plastic thing. It feels real. It's the first kind of compelling thing I've seen. Not that I really want to shoot virtual turkeys all that much, but it's just a unique idea and a well-done product instead of just something cheap. That was cool and unusual. Let's see. The folks over here have something called the Bear Extender. That is a Wi-Fi extender that they describe as a super airport card for your Mac. You plug it into a USB port, and it allegedly gives you like 5 times the range for your Wi-Fi connection, or to reach a Wi-Fi connection. I hope to get a chance to review that, because if that's true, that's another thing that could be very useful, especially for travelers.
And software, that whole Appaloosa section remains interesting. That's always been one of my favorite places to visit. In the past, they had separate Mac and iOS sections. Now they've combined it all into one app section, which I guess makes sense since now there's an app store for Mac as well as for iOS. And there were a couple of interesting things there. Let's see if I'm trying to remember. There was a thing called Cloak, which was like a private, personal, I guess more than private, a personal VPN or private network. So if you're worried about being in a Starbucks and having people sniff out what you're doing and getting your password or something like that, people in business use a VPN network to prevent that sort of thing. And if you don't work for a big company, it can be expensive to try to maintain one of those things, pay for somebody else to do it. This is a really cheap and efficient, personal, almost transparent way to do it. You don't even have to know what's going on, it just works. So that was kind of cool. And again, I haven't tried it. I just saw the demo, but it seemed cool. The MyClean or MacClean, what is it? Clean My Mac. Clean My Mac 2. Normally, I'm not a big fan of cleaning software because and I almost never do it with a utility because I'm always worried that they will inadvertently clean something that I didn't want them to, and I'll come back at it's like hiring somebody to clean your house and discovering that they thought all those old papers were garbage and they were something important that you wanted to save. But this one seemed to be really good at allowing you to see what it was going to do before it did it and making sure that wouldn't happen. And it has one of the most fun user interfaces. They spent a lot of time designing the software to be attractive as well as to be functional. So that was good. And if you're into magic, and I hesitate to say this because I don't want people to, in case I show you the magic trick later, I don't want you to know how to do it. But there's a great series of magic trick apps for your iPhone in one of those booths over there. And they're pretty easy to do. They still take practice, though. Like any good, if a magic trick doesn't require practice, it's probably not a good trick. And so these will definitely require practice. But if you do practice it, they are very effective. And you can watch. They demo the tricks for you over at the booth, and you can see how effective it is. And they're not expensive. A couple of bucks each, and you can get these really cool magic tricks. That's fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. One other thing that I think is worth mentioning too, there are two companies here that are celebrating 10th birthdays, and they're small developers with high quality software. That's Smile Software and Belight Software. Smile Software and Belight Software. Thank you. I'm not used to sitting this close to the mic. It's kind of amazing, I think, to see small developers last that long, continue to develop great products consistently, and both of those companies really do. We've talked to them both again on the show, so you can see some of the discussions with them. But it's nice that they're here. It's nice they've been. Belight in their case comes from Odessa in the Ukraine, so it's a long trip for them, and they don't come every year. But it's good to see them. And of course, Smile is a great supporter of the community, so they also
they're both great. And Smile especially, they have two great products: PDF Pen and Text Expander, and they're both worth getting. And you cannot get a company that gives better customer support than they do. They are just tops. So.
And both of those products, I don't know about you, Ted, but they're essential for me. They're not even things I want to use. I have to use. Right. I don't know how I'd do anything without them. So what have you spent money on the show?
Actually, nothing that I would necessarily be touting somebody to get. We have a set of wireless headphones at home that connect to our TV for times when my wife and I, when one of us wants to watch television and the other one doesn't want to hear what's going on. And they sort of broke, and they're Sennheiser, which are the best ones to get. If you're going to get something like that, don't get a crappy cheap one because it's just not worth it. And so I went to the Sennheiser booth and said, I had one, it worked for years, it's not working now, what do you recommend? And so they told me to get this thing, and normally it's like $350, and they had it on sale for $260 or something like that, and it's pretty expensive, but I said okay. And it works. I got it at home. It works great. I mean, I don't know if it's worth $260, but the old it's on sale. Get it now. So I got seduced. I got seduced by that. They could have said it was $1,000 and you can get it now for $700, and I attempted to get it. But it does. It works beautifully. Much better than the other one. So I spent money on that, and I don't know. There are some things I might have spent money on, but I'm going to get them free to review, so I didn't spend money on those. But some of the hard drive things that we just talked about earlier.
I'm glad you mentioned that, the sale thing. That seems to be another trend, and I'm hearing positive responses from both the attendees and the vendors here, that they can sell, you can buy at the show. When you're looking at it, you can take it home or order it and have it be delivered for when you get home.
That wasn't always true.
That was absolutely not always true.
Right.
And
so that's a big change this year.
And I think it's a very positive change.
Yeah, and the vendors that I talked to have all said that the response is much greater than they ever guessed. But at least 3 vendors that I talked to had run out of stuff that they brought with them because they never expected to sell that many. And so it's if anything, that's encouraging for those vendors to come back again in the future. Oh, and another, speaking of things, and this is not something that I bought here, but I did get one, and it's really great. And when won a Best of Show from Macworld is the ScanSnap i510, I think is the number. Anyway, I just reviewed it for Macworld. You can read my review online at the Macworld site if you want to know why I like it so much. But it's a fantastic document scanner. If you want to scan things to get rid of paper, like if you have a file cabinet and inside your file cabinet are 10 years of tax returns, and you're saying, I'd really like to dump these. They take up so much space. I never use them, but I feel hesitant about getting rid of tax returns. I'm not sure I want to do it. For that sort of task, or for just keeping up with the paper. Maybe the mail comes every day, and like me, you get a whole host of bills that you want to maintain for at least a year, so that when tax time comes around, you have a tracking of those bills, but you don't really want to keep all that paper. For any task like that, where there's just a lot of paper, a document scanner is much better than a flatbed scanner. And the ScanSnap document scanner from Fujitsu is the best there is.
Folks, we just have a couple more minutes before we have to get out of here. Any questions, anything we can answer for you? No, everybody's happy? Have you all had a good time at Macworld iWorld? Good. You coming back?
Yeah.
All right. We're doing this again next year. We'll save you a seat. All right? We'll see you next year.
Okay. You can reserve your seats now. Just leave your name on the seat, and we'll make sure it's there next year.
All the other trade shows at Moscone will have police tape right around this section.
That's right.
Just be here. Ted, thanks a lot. It's always fun. It's fun to do in person.
Yeah. Get to see exactly who I'm talking to.
Yeah. You got to come to... well, you said you weren't coming to Pennsylvania, so I guess I have to come back out here.
No, I'm not coming to Pennsylvania, but it is Groundhog Day in Pennsylvania.
It is. I forgot about that.
Today is Groundhog Day, and you should all watch the Bill Murray movie again. It's one of the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion, and this is the perfect day to watch it.
And it's one of the reasons... there are 2 reasons I'm not happy to be from Pennsylvania. Groundhog Day is one of them, and if you've never been to Puxatawny, you don't understand, and I won't get into the second one, so we'll leave that alone. Okay. Folks, this is MacVoicesTV. We're at Macworld iWorld 2013. We've been live with Ted Landau. Thank you so much for watching. Folks, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for coming.
We will see you back here next year. Thank you.
So long.
MacVoicesTV is part of the MacVoices Group at MacVoicesGroup.com. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at BackbeatMedia.com.